Hi, I'm Dana Han-Klein here with Danny Boyle for T2 Trainspotting.
I would love to know, how did you guys settle on what you drew from porno and what you guys kind of added from your own understanding of the characters? Because there were elements of both.
It's interesting. So even in the first film,
it's not an exact adaptation.
No,
so,
it's not, and nor is it, and that's very particular to do with porno's plot.
Right.
Because the porno plot in the book is actually about they'll make a porn movie, and we did take some things from it, like some obvious things like the return of Renton from Amsterdam, Begbie being in jail. There's the 1690 scene, which has its origins in the No More Catholics sing-along thing that they do at the Loyalist Club. That has its origins in the original book. But that's it pretty much for the plot. But what I'm saying is that John Hodge, his version of the characters and our version of the characters and the way the actors play them is slightly different, well, quite a bit different to the way Irvine actually writes them. And that's fine, because and Irvine's happy with that, because when he writes the characters again in another iteration, he goes back to his version of them. He's not affected by our version of them. And he likes that. They run in parallel, the two versions, if you like. So, yeah, a lot of it does come from, it's inspired by his writing, and particularly especially the first book, which I really think is a masterpiece, the first one, and remains like a beacon of originality, outrage, defiant presentation of voices who are normally marginalised, and yet here they are, unapologetic, defiantly central, absolutely central. And I think that's the reason that the film worked, is because of the groundwork he did in laying that sense of these are counterculture voices that are absolutely front and centre of what it is to be counterculture, at the time. And of course, the interesting thing about doing an update is, can you sustain that 20 years later? You can't, of course you can't, because counterculture really belongs to that era of the first film when you are careless. There's nothing in front of you that you treasure. You eviscerate it all and kind of just take your own. You want to stimulate your own sensations without any reference to care or worry or anything like that. Even when friends die, like Tommy dies in the first one, they get over it quite quickly. A baby dies, they kind of get over it. And of course, it's later when the counterculture thing is not quite so easy, that the reckoning happens, and those things come back to haunt them a bit, as they do in the new film.
One of the interesting things that the culture of the time is so specific, and I feel like you guys captured it so well. And one of the interesting things for me, at least, that you tap into in this is the gentrification factor. Because, I'm from the Bay Area, we're an area that is experiencing this sort of insane gentrification.
I've just been there. Right, it's incredible the way it's changed since I was here.
It's like the death of the local culture is kind of a byproduct of that. So, is this film sort of a way to preserve that moment in time, and then this updated moment in time, and sort of compare them, or is that something you take into consideration, or is it just hey, this happens to be part of the source?
You mention it, and it does get mentioned in the film. He says the great wave of gentrification has yet to reach us, but it's on its way.
Right.
It's in the post. Gentrification is an extraordinary. No, it's not a film about gentrification.
No. But just that is one of the huge changes between the first film and now.
Yeah. And so you become part of the evidence that gentrification has happened, because you can see the difference, and it changes many things. And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? There are good things about it, obviously. There's an energy about it that actually motivates change and movement, and then there's a bad thing about it, because it crushes individuality and traditions, really. And it's finding a balance, I think, between those things that's the key for any society managing change, really. Because you can get swamped with change. It's so easy for it to just overpower everyone and everything. And it's just building everywhere. And you can't see anything anymore, because it's just and you think, who's allowing all this to happen? And my shop's gone. The favourite shop I used to get my bread in has gone. And so it's managing that level of change is very tough, yeah. I mean, Edinburgh's interesting, because Edinburgh is a historic city. Actually, it's both a medieval city and a Regency city. So there's two kind of cities within it. You can't change those things. They're protected, because they're historic. But the city has changed for the better, because it's had an influx of students. They do worry about this, because there's up to about a quarter of the population of Edinburgh now is students, whereas previously it was a very genteel, rather staid town, and now it has the energy of youth. with all their appetite, those hundreds of thousands of people, like their appetite for what they want changes the city. And they're worried about that it's not a good thing because it won't put down roots in the city, because students tend not to put down roots. They tend to skim through a city. But it's a much more attractive city, I thought, to be in than previously. It was always a poor cousin for me to Glasgow, which felt vibrant, a bit dirty but vibrant. But now Edinburgh's buzzing. And a lot of people, ironically, blame the first film, because students watched the first film and thought, that looks cool, let's go and live there, let's go and study there. So I don't know whether that's true.
I was going to say, it's a wave of people who might be sort of transient through it, but who might be inspired and need a distraction, they better watch out.
Yeah, it's Trainspotting gentrification that's happened, which is a bizarre
that would be
thing to take on board.
It's a strange side effect of the first one. I'd love to talk about the music just because it's so key, and music is just such an important thing, and it's so tied to memory, and all it takes is a few notes of a song, and I was just I was back in the first scene. So what was it like balancing sort of the callbacks to the music of the first time, and then trying to update it a little bit?
Yeah, music amplifies emotion. That's why it's so powerful in film always, and it can have an incredible power, almost beyond performance, beyond the dialogue, beyond the story. The music, if you get it right, just makes you rise, really, or collapse in sadness, or it's extraordinary power. So we wanted to try and, given that the film was going to have a relationship with the first film, a kind of almost as an artifact in itself, not just as their story history, it would actually almost have a relationship with the first film as a piece in itself, almost like they were aware there was a film made about them. Almost, we wanted to use music, but we didn't want to just repeat it, because you've always got this problem when you're doing a sequel, which is that everybody wants it to be the same but different.
Right.
Which is understandable. They want to they're coming to it because they loved the first one, but they don't want it to be exactly the same, otherwise that's a bit disappointing. But if it's completely different, it's also a bit disappointing, because so if you recast it and didn't have any of the, they'd be like, oh no, what have you done? So one of the things you can do with music is that if we did choose to use it, we thought we'll remix it or reimagine it. And so Prodigy did an amazing remix of Lost for Life, which allows you to hear the Iggy, which you remember them running down the streets to the Iggy, and yet it's different. It's kind of changed. It's kind of funky. It's funkier, if that's possible to imagine. That's possible to do with with Iggy. And I think the one you're referring to is Underworld reimagined Born Slipping.
Yep.
So you hear chords which trigger that emotion in you of memory, whoa, and yet it is different. It's a very, very different piece the way it's used now. So that's very powerful if you can use it. So we were very, but then you have to also you have to do the different thing as well. You have to make the new film earn its own right to be there musically, and we were very lucky. We found this band, Young Fathers, who are from the same estates around Edinburgh that Irvine originally wrote his stories about 30 years ago now, and they are they're as good as it gets. I was amazed. I can't pretend at my age now that they're my band, in the way that the original music felt it was mine, but I do think it's really special, and it illuminates the film. It lifts the film in a way that some of the tracks did in the original piece, the original film.
Shifting a little bit, one thing that really resonated for me, strangely enough, is just because I'm a runner, and I feel like that's how I channel all of my potentially mischievous energy instead, is into okay, don't do stupid things, just go on a run.
Yeah.
So what is your equivalent of that? Do you have something that you just channel or is it making films?
I used to run. I used to run a lot, and I bust my knee, and I had an MRI scan on it, and they said, if you keep running or you play tennis, because I used to play a bit of tennis, they said you won't have a knee left because all the cartilage is gone. Anyway, so I swim now. I swam this morning in the hotel I was staying in, the Palace Hotel.
There we go.
So I swim, and it's not quite the same as running. I don't quite channel ideas like I used to. What I used to love doing is I'd read a script, whether it was one I was considering or whether it was one I was working on. I'd read the script and then I'd go out for a run. And freeform things just pop in your head as you run. And I get some great ideas about the script while I was out running. Weird that. and it's not quite the same swimming, to be honest. Probably because I'm not a very good swimmer, so there's always that sense of survival alert, staying, is predominant, rather than when I was running, your mind relaxes.
I was going to say, I feel like it's like a freeing sort of
You can
state,
go anywhere
but
with
swimming,
it.
you're like, stroke.
I know, it's not quite the same.
There's no autopilot.
No.
Are we ever going to see Skag Boys? Like a Skag Boys adaptation?
Well, I don't know who's doing it, but there was talk of making a TV show out of the history of that, which would be interesting, especially these days. TV has become, very dominant in terms of, and very confident about the subject matter it's tackling. There doesn't seem to be any restrictions, and there's an outrageousness in some of television as it pushes boundaries, really, that would make it well placed to look at them long term over Skag Boys. But yes, it's obviously one of his really good novels, and I think that's what they're thinking.
Cool.
That's the thinking. There might be a TV of it.
I hope you're involved in it. Well, thank you so much.